Fake Rolex watches, fake Gucci luggage, even fake designer blue jeans. We've all seen too many stories, predictable stories, about the so-called plight of greedy people who get suckered when they think they're getting a bargain. Well, when W5 exposes the knockoff racket, it's different. We do things that count, lawn ornaments. We sent Elliott Schiff on the case of the jumping salmon, and he found concrete evidence.
When you think of New Brunswick, pastoral beauty comes to mind. But New Brunswick also happens to be a veritable Louvre of lawn art. You can sample just about every type of lawn ornament imaginable, from the familiar, to the tacky, to the politically incorrect, to, well, to be honest, the truly bizarre. People here live by the motto, "Judge me not by my home, but by my lawn art." There's obviously a lot of money to be made in the lawn ornament business, especially when you're churning out thousands of those little frogs and gnomes. But what about the creator, the artist, who comes up with the original vision? There's a woodcarver here in New Brunswick who says the lawn ornament industry is ripping him off, lining its pockets with his art. Henry Smith's been carving for more than 50 years. It started out as a hobby, a way of making a few extra bucks to support his wife and 14 children.
Well, I started out with little small animals and birds and little nude figurines of women, something that we could work in the woodshed at night. And
his home in Sussex, New Brunswick is his gallery. Henry's always sold each piece as an individual work of art, like this cat. Asking price, $3,000. Henry's big beef is that people have been buying his carvings, knocking them off, and selling them as lawn art.
There's one right there. Somebody put a straw hat on his head. Well, anyway, as I said...
It all started 40 years ago. Henry carved a little boy that he sold at an exhibition for $125. He went away to the army. When he came back 10 years later, he saw little boys perched on doorsteps all over the neighborhood, sometimes with a hat or a fishing pole. But Henry was convinced they were his.
It's sort of like somebody laughing at you. We have a piece of your art, and we only paid a fraction of what you're asking for. Someone, in my opinion, that uses someone else's art without paying the man in question for copyrights is not a very honest person.
How do you know that this is your little boy in waiting?
No two people signs their name in the same way. Well, no two artists shove the chisel in the same way. No two artists puts the eyes in the same way. One little foot on top of the other. The way his little hands is there with the flowers in it. He's not a little fisherman boy. This little boy is sitting in wonderment, waiting for his girlfriend.
And sure enough, when you're driving through New Brunswick, that little boy pops up everywhere.
We sell them for $55 retail.
John and Irene Walton own and operate the largest lawn ornament emporium east of Montreal. There's something for everyone here, from Charlie the Drunk to the Virgin Mary. More than 500 ornaments, enough to satisfy any ornament aficionado. Among them, the little boy. So just how did he get there? Well, the Waltons churn out all their ornaments in a back shed. It's not like they've been blessed with artistic vision. They're just pouring cement into molds. Most of the molds come from the United States. Companies there get the original work of art and make a mold from it. They then sell the mold to people like the Waltons. In the case of the little boy, the Waltons bought it out of a catalog from an American company that claims to hold the copyright. Close to 250 companies across North America buy molds from catalogs and sell them as lawn art. And look what we found in La Crescent, Minnesota, Postville, Iowa, and Bolton, Ontario. And Henry says they all came from his chisel.
Someone had to make it in the first place. And someone has desecrated someone else's art. That's what they've done. It's just like taking a Rembrandt, like these here people who are doing with these valuable paintings. They're desecrating them.
But because Henry sold the original little boy, he has no proof. He says it's the same story with his skunks, his frog, his raccoon. Finally, enough was enough. Henry couldn't sit by any longer.
My wife said to me, she said, the best way to catch a skunk, she said, Henry, you're an old trapper, is with bait. Use a fish.
So Henry carved a jumping salmon and clearly marked it with his copyright. He kept the original for proof, then had several cement copies made. The trap was set. All he had to do was wait for more copies to appear on the market. When they did, it was time to bring in the law. Constable Keith Larson, a 16-year veteran of the RCMP, was put on the case of the suspect salmon. It was a covert operation, a salmon sting, involving 2 undercover officers.
Lieutenant Constable St. Germain and I were husband and wife, and we were out shopping.
So you purchased the lawn ornaments?
I purchased, like I say, we purchased a large concrete frog and the salmon. Yes.
And sure enough, the scene of the crime was none other than the Waltons. Police swooped in on a crisp October morning, captured on home video by the Waltons. Under Henry's direction, police seized close to 4 tons of cement lawn ornaments. Most of it was later returned, but not the critical concrete evidence. 8 suspect salmon and 1 salmon mold, enough for 3 charges under the Copyright Act.
We firmly believed, and we still do, that we were innocent, and we're very community and family-oriented people, and this is out of character for us, and it's quite a slap in the face.
The Waltons gave police a statement saying they got the salmon mold from a company in the United States. Therefore, they were not responsible for the copyright.
By the time you saw the fish, there were no markings on it?
There were no markings on it.
But the court heard that someone had tampered with that salmon. The prosecution introduced Exhibit P10. A forensic expert was called to the stand and, in a dramatic moment, darkened the courtroom and shone an oblique light on the base of the salmon. Clearly visible were the remains of Henry's copyright that someone had tried to obliterate.
What started out as a very difficult case had slowly turned in favor of the prosecution. But they hadn't been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the Waltons had knowingly infringed upon Henry's copyright. That is, until a surprise witness entered the courtroom, sat in this witness box, and gave testimony that stripped away the final vestiges of the Waltons' credibility.
They asked us to lie for them. I couldn't do it.
Michelle Spiker used to work for the American company that made the mold for the salmon. She now works 12 hours a day slaughtering turkeys. The RCMP called in the FBI. The FBI tracked her down in Iowa, where they take their lawn ornaments very seriously. Michelle says the salmon caper was hatched north of the border. She says the Waltons sent her the cement salmon, asking her to make a mold of it. Months later, she got a call from a desperate John Walton.
They had wanted us to go ahead and, if we would, say that we'd got it at a flea market or at a yard sale, and that we had contacted them on this piece.
They basically wanted you to come up and lie.
Yeah, and I couldn't do that. At first I could, but I thought I could, but I just couldn't. The morality of it, I wasn't brought up that way.
That was all the judge needed to hear.
We were charged as being guilty. It was 3 counts.
The Waltons had poached Henry's salmon. The court hit the company with a $1,700 fine. They'd been caught in a lie, but still insist they didn't do it. Sort of.
You cheated,
We cheated, and yet we didn't cheat.
but you knew that that salmon was bought here, and so the statement you gave to the police wasn't true.
At that point, that's right. That's right, yeah.
So why did
Very
you
true.
lie?
Well, it looked like an easy umbrella, at that time. We were pressured.
Well, why did you do that?
Well, what we should do is get down, I guess, say 10 Hail Marys and, hope that it never happens again. How that be?
But John Walton's Hail Marys and the court's fines weren't nearly enough for Henry Smith.
And I said to the judge when I come out, I said, boy, you almost slapped his hands for stealing. And he said, until I can have you charged for contempt, he said.
You know, Henry, the Waltons were found in court to have done something wrong. Isn't that enough?
No, it's not enough. It's not enough, Elliott, because for the simple reason is this. I never got a cent, not a cent. If they're going to be allowed to reproduce my art and desecrate it so it's no longer art, I want to share in the profit.
So Henry's hired the busiest copyright lawyers in the country. Toronto's Ron Dimmick won Bounce's case against Fleecy, is representing Pepto-Bismol against Bismuth, and chased Head Start from the shelf to the showers. Now it's Henry's turn to sue, and Dimmick's waiving his Bay Street fees, taking on Henry's case to prove a point. Henry's latest project is the Pole of Life, a 40-foot totem pole depicting the history of Canada. He spends most of his afternoons chiseling away, waiting for his day in court.
I'm pursuing it to this point to prove to the world what these people are doing to the poor artist. You know, it's not right.